It was a day Los Angeles would never forget. The sky burned orange, choked with smoke that blotted out the sun. Flames roared through neighborhoods, devouring homes, trees, and memories in their path. Sirens wailed like a city in mourning, and people ran, some clutching children, others carrying whatever they could save. But not everyone could escape. Amid the chaos, one man stood steady, Ahmed Khan, a firefighter with a heart as unyielding as the flames he fought. For Ahmed, this wasn't just a job. It was a calling, a promise to protect lives no matter the cost. The fire was relentless, spreading faster than anyone could predict. Evacuation orders blared from loudspeakers, but the streets were a maze of panic and confusion. Time was running out, and in the heart of it all, Ahmed tightened his helmet, his eyes fixed on the inferno ahead. Ahmed Khan wasn't born a hero. He was made, shaped by the hands of a mother who taught him that kindness was the greatest strength, and a father who showed him that service was the highest calling. Growing up in a tight-knit immigrant community, Ahmed learned early that the world could be harsh, but it was also filled with people who needed help. His mother's words echoed in his heart. Whoever saves a life, it is as if they saved all of humanity. It wasn't just a verse from the Quran. It was a way of life. When Ahmed was 10, he watched firefighters pull a toddler from a burning car. That day, he didn't just see heroes, he saw his future. Years later, as a firefighter, Ahmed carried those lessons with him. His faith wasn't just a part of him, it was the fire in his soul, pushing him to run toward danger when others ran away. He didn't see Muslim or Christian, rich or poor. He saw people, and to him, that was enough. The alarm blared, shattering the tense silence of the fire station. Ahmed's heart raced as the dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio. All units, structure fire on Maple and 5th, multiple civilians trapped, flames spreading fast. Ahmed didn't hesitate. He grabbed his gear, his mind already racing ahead to the scene. The fire truck roared to life, sirens screaming as it tore through the streets of Los Angeles. Outside, the world was a blur of smoke and panic. People running, cars abandoned, and the sky glowing an eerie orange. When they arrived, the neighborhood was a nightmare. Flames devoured rooftops, and embers rained down like twisted snow. A woman sprinted toward them, her face streaked with soot and tears. "My kids!" she screamed, pointing to a house engulfed in fire. "They're inside!" Through the smoke and flames, Ahmed saw them. Two small figures pressed against a second-story window. A boy and a girl, their faces pale with fear, their tiny hands banging against the glass. The fire roared around them, swallowing the house piece by piece. Ahmed didn't think. He acted. "I'm going in!" he shouted to his team, already sprinting toward the house. The stairs were gone, consumed by the fire. But Ahmed found another way. He climbed onto a crumbling ledge, his boots slipping on the soot-covered surface, and smashed through the window with his crowbar. Inside, the heat was suffocating. The children huddled under a table, clutching each other tightly. The boy had a stuffed rabbit in his arms, its fur singed and blackened. Ahmed knelt down, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Take my hands," he said. "I'm going to get you out of here." With the children clinging to him, Ahmed made his way back to the window. The floor groaned beneath them, and the walls seemed to close in. He tightened his grip on the kids and jumped just as the roof collapsed behind them. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. The children's mother rushed forward, tears streaming down her face as she hugged her babies. "Thank you," she sobbed, clutching Ahmed's hand. "You saved them." Ahmed had barely caught his breath when another cry pierced the air. A woman's voice, raw with desperation. "Help! Please! Someone help me!" He turned toward the sound, his eyes scanning the burning houses. Through the smoke, he spotted her. A woman trapped in a second-story window, her face streaked with soot and tears. Flames licked at the edges of the frame, and the roof above her groaned ominously. Ahmed didn't hesitate. "Stay there!" he shouted, though he knew she had no choice. He grabbed his gear and charged toward the house, the heat searing his skin even through his protective clothing. The front door was blocked by fallen debris, so he smashed through a side window, glass shattering around him. Inside, the smoke was thick and suffocating. Ahmed crawled on his hands and knees, following the sound of the woman's cries. He found her in a bedroom, pinned under a fallen beam. Her ankle was twisted at an unnatural angle, and her face was pale with pain. "I've got you," Ahmed said, his voice steady despite the chaos. He lifted the beam with a grunt, his muscles straining under the weight, and scooped her into his arms. "Hold on tight," he told her. "We're getting out of here." The woman clung to him, her breath shallow and ragged. Ahmed moved quickly, navigating the collapsing hallway with the skill of someone who had done this 100 times before. But this time the fire was faster. The ceiling above them cracked and embers rained down like fiery hail. Ahmed shielded the woman with his body, his jacket smoldering as he pushed through the flames. They reached the window just as the floor behind them gave way. With a burst of strength, Ahmed leapt through the opening, landing hard on the ground below. Paramedics rushed forward, taking the woman from his arms. She grabbed his hand, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. I thought I was going to die." The fire was relentless, spreading faster than anyone could contain. Ahmed had just finished securing the woman when a farmer ran up to him, his face frantic. "My brothers!" he shouted. "They're trapped in the barn. The hayloft's on fire. They're gonna burn alive." Ahmed's eyes darted to the barn, a massive structure already half consumed by flames. Smoke billowed from its roof, and the air was thick with the smell of burning wood and hay. Through the haze, he could see two figures moving in the hayloft, a man and a teenager waving desperately for help. "I'll get them," Ahmed said, already moving. His team tried to stop him. "The barn's about to collapse." But Ahmed didn't listen. He couldn't, not when lives were at stake. He scanned the area, his mind racing. The barn's entrance was blocked by flames, and the ladder to the hayloft was gone. But then he saw it. A rusty tractor parked nearby, its keys still in the ignition. An idea sparked in his mind. Ahmed jumped onto the tractor and revved the engine. He hooked a hose to the exhaust and blasted the horn, the sound cutting through the roar of the fire. The men in the hayloft turned toward the noise, their faces lighting up with hope. "Jump into the hay pile!" Ahmed shouted, waving his arms. "Now!" The teenager hesitated, his eyes wide with fear. "That's 20 feet down. We'll break our necks. Trust the hay or trust the fire," Ahmed yelled back. The older man didn't wait. He shoved the teenager off the loft, and they both plummeted into the haystack below. Ahmed gunned the tractor forward, towing the hose like a makeshift zip line. He caught the men mid-fall, swinging them onto the tractor bed just as the hayloft exploded in a shower of sparks. The barn collapsed behind them, the sound deafening. The men clung to Ahmed, their faces pale with shock. You saved us," the older man stammered, his voice breaking. "I thought we were done for." As the dust settled from the barn's collapse, Ahmed's ears caught a new sound, high-pitched squeals of terror. He turned toward the noise and saw them. 4 pigs trapped in a pen near the barn, their eyes wide with fear. The fire was closing in, and the animals were frantically trying to escape, but the gate was jammed shut. Ahmed hesitated for a moment. As a Muslim, he had never touched a pig before, let alone eaten one. But as he looked into their panicked eyes, he knew what he had to do. Life was life, no matter its form. He ran to the pen, his boots crunching over charred debris. The heat was intense, and the smoke made it hard to breathe, but Ahmed didn't stop. He grabbed the gate and yanked it open, the metal scorching his hands. "Come on!" he shouted, waving his arms. "This way!" The pigs didn't need to be told twice. They bolted out of the pen, squealing as they ran toward safety. Ahmed herded them away from the flames, his movements quick and deliberate. One of the pigs, a large, stubborn sow, refused to move, frozen in fear. Ahmed knelt down, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "Let's go." The pig seemed to understand. It trotted after the others, its tail swishing as it disappeared into the smoke. Ahmed watched them go, a small smile tugging at his lips. His team stared at him, their faces a mix of shock and admiration. "Did you just save pigs?" one of them asked. His voice was incredulous. Ahmed shrugged, wiping soot from his face. "They were scared," he said simply, "and they deserved a chance." The fire was finally contained. The flames that had raged for hours were now reduced to smoldering embers, and the sky, once choked with smoke, began to clear. The neighborhood was a charred shell of what it had been, but amidst the ruins, there was life. Survivors hugging their loved ones, volunteers passing out water, and firefighters collapsing in exhausted relief. Ahmed sat on the bumper of a fire truck, his gear streaked with soot and ash. His body ached and his lungs burned with every breath, but his mind was elsewhere. He stared at the teddy bear, the locket, and the photo he had carried through the day, each one a reminder of the lives he had saved. One by one, the people he had rescued came to him. The mother of the 2 children, her face still streaked with tears, hugged him tightly. "You gave me my babies back," she whispered. "I'll never forget that." The woman with the locket pressed it into his hand. "Lena should know who saved her mom," she said. Tell her angels wear fire gear." The rancher and his brother approached next, their faces filled with gratitude. "You didn't just save us," the older man said, his voice breaking. "You saved our family, our future." Even the teenager, who had called Ahmed crazy, shook his hand. "You're a legend, man," he said. "A real-life superhero." Ahmed smiled, though his eyes were heavy with exhaustion. "I'm just a guy who hates losing," he said, "but thank you." The sun rose over Los Angeles, casting a golden glow on the charred remains of the neighborhood. The fire was out, but its impact lingered, in the ashes, in the tears, and in the hearts of those who had survived. Amidst the ruins, a crowd gathered, their faces filled with gratitude and hope. At the center stood Ahmed, his fire gear still smudged with soot, his eyes reflecting the weight of the day. He stepped onto a makeshift podium, the teddy bear, locket, and photo tucked into his chest pocket. The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. For a moment, Ahmed hesitated. He wasn't used to speeches. He was a man of action, not words. But as he looked out at the faces before him, Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, rich, poor, young, old, he knew he had to say something. "My mama once told me," he began, his voice steady but soft, "that heroes aren't born in fires. They're born in asterisks and hearts." He paused, tapping his chest. "Hearts don't see flags, faiths, or fences, just people." The crowd nodded, their silence heavy with understanding. Ahmed continued, his words carrying the weight of his experiences. "Today you call me a hero. But heroes? Heroes are the mom who taught me to love strangers, the farmer who shared his last water, the kid who gave me this." He held up the teddy bear, its singed fur catching the light. "When I needed courage more than he did." He looked out at the crowd, his gaze steady. "Next time you see someone different, someone who doesn't look like you, pray like you, or live like you, don't look at them, look for them, because saving the world starts with seeing it."